After defeating the acrobatic Silky and uncovering its connection to Aira, our heroes face new challenges. With Aira revived by the Acro Silky's sacrifice and one of Okarune's balls recovered, the stakes are higher than ever. What encounters await? Let's find out. In the next scene, after those events, we move to Ayase's house, where the friends ate together, joined by Aira and Turbo Granny. Okarune and Seiko stared at the quietly eating Ayase and Aira, and as Ayase was getting some food, she asked if it was true that Aira was angry at her for dropping a basin on her head, adding that she wasn't trying to become close friends now, but she also didn't want them to be enemies, so she admitted that what she did was excessive and apologized. Now, she said she wanted Aira to apologize to Okarune for making him look foolish, and after that, they would be even, to which Aira asked if she had any idea about this, and that she wouldn't hold a grudge over something as trivial as the wash basin incident, explaining that she was pursuing Ayase because she knew she was a demon. Because of this, Ayase said that she had been telling her all along that she wasn't a demon, and that she was mistaken about everything, and now she had turned on her. And if anything, she was a pain in the ass. If that was the case, Aira retorted, then what kind of creature was Okarune, causing Okarune to cough in surprise. When they fought Acrobat Silky, Okarune had apparently resembled a demon, and there was no way, Aira continued, pointing at Seiko, that this woman was his grandmother, as she was hot and too young, which caught Seiko's attention and prompted her to praise Aira for being such a sweet girl. And in fact, she claimed that Momo is a demon, which greatly irritated her and made her yell at Seiko to be quiet, and that she was just causing trouble. Aira commented that she knew it, and immediately pointed at Ayase, while shouting that Okarune and Seiko were both demons, and Ayase was the boss in charge of them, suspecting that their aim was to destroy this world. This caused Ayase to shout again, and ask if Aira was a total idiot, and if she had that kind of power, the first thing she'd do is blow up Aira's head, telling her not to aggravate her pubescent paranoia, to which a shocked Aira said that Ayase would blow up her head, and then had an aha moment, claiming that Ayase's true nature had been revealed. Aira stood up while finishing her food, and declared that although she didn't have enough strength to defeat Ayase now, she was confident that day would come, and when it did, she would crush Ayase. Ayase also stood up and accepted her challenge with pride, promising to thoroughly crush Aira, which prompted Aira to comment that Ayase shouldn't underestimate her because there was one thing she was forgetting, and that was that she had been chosen to protect the peace of the world due to her unparalleled cuteness. And as she said this, she posed with a peace sign. After that, Aira grabbed her things and ran out of the house while shouting thanks for having her over, and that the somen noodles Seiko made were delicious, causing Ayase to yell at her to wait because she wasn't done talking to her. Because of the compliments Seiko received from Aira, she took her side and told her to hang in there because she would beat Ayase one day, and that she, as her Annie, was rooting for her, which also annoyed Ayase, who called her an old hag, and asked what she thought she was doing. Before Aira finally left, she called out to Okarune, getting his attention, and pointed out that although he was a demon, he had saved Aira several times, which made her wonder why, causing Okarune to be puzzled while Ayase yelled that she had been saying all along that he wasn't a demon. Okarune responded that it was only natural that when someone is in a bad situation, you try to help. Aira seemed to be moved by this, understanding that there was still something human left in Okarune's heart, and because of that, she said she would free him from Ayase's grasp, promising to do so. After saying that, Aira blushed and started walking away again, which surprised Ayase, who said she didn't understand what just happened and that Aira's mind was really out of whack, with Okarune adding that she had seriously misunderstood things. As she walked, Aira told herself that it was wrong to have feelings for Okarune because she was human and Okarune was a demon, and that it couldn't be. In the next scene, Okarune suddenly shouted, asking if the one he was talking to couldn't do what they were doing in a more normal way. And it was revealed that he was talking to Turbo Granny, who was holding one of his lost marbles, telling Okarune to stop complaining and that she had already told him she would return his marbles. Seiko and Ayase prepared as if they were at a baseball game, with Seiko commenting that the pitcher had the jitters, which made Okarune nervously ask why she was trying to bat away his marble, while Turbo Granny questioned Seiko's statement and asked who she thought she was talking to, telling her to just watch old Turbo Granny's ball come to her. Turbo Granny prepared to throw forcefully, and after throwing Okarune's marble, she shouted that she would make Seiko eat her words, to which Seiko retorted that she talked too much and tried to hit Turbo Granny's fastball. However, Seiko missed the marble, so it solidly hit Okarune's groin, causing him to cry out in pain. The force of Turbo Granny's throw sent Okarune flying, while Ayase, pretending to be the catcher, shouted strike, batter out. Seiko quickly made Okarune jump up and down after his marble hit his groin, which Okarune did. After jumping up and down, as he looked at it, Ayase asked if it had returned, and soon after, he shouted with joy that he had gotten back one of his marbles, making Ayase cheer. Seiko commented that the ball was high and inside, and that she would hit it next time, while Turbo Granny boasted, asking if her ball wasn't smoking fast, as Ayase asked Okarune if it wasn't great that he had gotten back one of his marbles, to which Okarune replied that it was embarrassing. In the next scene, Ayase and Okarune were at school, and while walking in the hallway, Ayase commented that they had gotten one marble, but they had no leads on the second one, and Okarune agreed. Ayase asked if Okarune had a PC for paranormal message boards, to which Okarune apologized, saying he didn't have one. Ayase thought that maybe she should get another job to get a replacement phone because those 4-year loans were a serious ripoff. After that, she said goodbye to Okarune and told him they'd meet on the roof at lunch, but Okarune apologized and said he wanted to work on a report over lunch. Ayase acknowledged what he said and asked if after school they could go to an internet cafe, but Okarune just apologized again, and as Okarune was about to give his reason, Ayase ignored it and let it go. Because Okarune didn't join her for lunch, Ayase went to her 2 friends and invited them to lunch instead, which made Miko ask about Okarune, to which Ayase explained that he had to work on a report, causing one of her friends to comment, "Oh dang," and suggest having Okarune do his report too, while Miko said Okarune was hardcore. Ayase agreed, but said there was something fishy about all of it, which made Miko ask what she meant, and she replied that Okarune was hiding something, and it seemed pretty obvious. Miko asked if it was a girl he was hiding, and Ayase shook her head, saying Okarune would be the last person she'd suspect of such a thing. But as she was about to say, she thought of Ira, yet she still denied that Okarune would do that. She suddenly decided to just buy a drink, and Miko asked her to get a Pampy for her too. Ayase bought from a stall at their school, purchasing 2 cartons of Pampy Orange, and while walking back, she wondered what Okarune might be doing, feeling uneasy for some reason. She thought that maybe she should peek into Class C for a moment, but quickly dismissed the idea, thinking she might just disturb Okarune working on his report, and it would be better to do her own homework. However, as she was walking, her eyes widened at what she noticed, and it turned out she saw Okarune on top of Ira behind a building at their school.
Police! Help! Police! Help!
Ayase dropped the carton she was carrying in shock when she saw this scene. In the next scene, we go back to the time before these events occurred, where Okarune was doing push-ups, and after completing 20 reps, his arms gave out, and he said it wasn't good and shouldn't be like that. He thought that when they searched for his other marble, another monster would surely appear, and he'd need to fight it. And while saying this, he put on wrist weights and started doing squats while remembering the training Seiko made him do. 5 sets of 100 push-ups, sit-ups, back exercises, and squats. And he also thought that he needed to become tough and strong, because if that didn't happen, he'd put Ayase in danger. Ira arrived and called out to him, so he turned and asked if he could help her, to which Ira pointed out again that he was a demon and Ira was a human. And as she was saying that even though she knew it was wrong, Okarune made a side comment that he wasn't a demon. Ira continued what she was saying, stating that even though she knew it was wrong, she couldn't stop her feelings from coming out, which made Okarune ask what she meant. Ira stretched out her hand to Okarune and ordered him to stay there. So Okarune wondered again what was going on, but Ira just told him not to move and close his eyes, which made Okarune shout, "Wait a minute." Ira approached him and suddenly tried to kiss him, causing Okarune to cry out and push Ira's face away from him. Ira asked why Okarun avoided it and why he was being weird, to which Okarun countered that Ira was the one being weird, and why would she do that out of nowhere? Ira reasoned that isn't it right that when you confess your feelings to someone, you need to kiss them, which made Okarun go huh. Ira added that she read it in a book, and it said that a confession equates to a kiss, and a guy has an obligation to accept that confession. Okarun was speechless and said that all of that was wrong, asking what kind of book Ira was reading, to which Ira replied that it was in her dad's den, making Okarun shout that she had read a dirty magazine. Okarun seemed to start playing tag with Ira to get away, and while this was happening, he asked if Ira wasn't popular with guys, so how could she be so romantically awkward, to which Ira questioningly said the words Roman tongue swords, making Okarun shout that that wasn't what he said. Their hands clasped and they wrestled for strength. And here Okarun begged Ira to stop because an attractive person shouldn't act like that, to which Ira replied not to equate popularity and romance, and that he didn't even know what it takes to be popular, and she wasn't romantically awkward, she just didn't know things, so Okarun shouldn't make fun of her. Okarun countered that that was the definition of romantically awkward, and that what Ira was thinking was completely wrong. Ira still forced herself on Okarun and reasoned that this was the very first time she felt this way, so Okarun should just let her confess, which made Okarun comment if she was insane or possessed again or something. Ira then swept one of Okarun's legs, causing Okarun to lose balance, and because of that, they both fell, resulting in their position with Okarun on top of Ira. And here you could see how flustered they both were by what happened. Ira puckered her lips as if expecting a kiss from Okarun, and this was when Ayase saw them. Okarun heard the juice cartons Ayase was carrying fall, and when he looked, he saw the shock on Ayase's face at what she had seen. Okarun tried to explain, but was quickly cut off when Ira said to hurry up and do it, so Okarun shouted that what Ayase was thinking was wrong. But it was too late, and Ayase was already disappointed in him, angrily saying he was a turd burger before leaving. Because of this, Okarun tried to chase after Ayase while explaining that what she was thinking about what happened was wrong. So Ayase countered and said that Okarun had told her he was working on a report, but now she'd see him fooling around with that skank. Ayase pointed out that Okarun's jacket was off. He was sweaty, and what were those things on his hands? S&M things, so Okarun said there was a logical reason for all of that. However, Ayase continued to walk out while saying she didn't want to hear his excuses and that the report was just a lie, to which Okarun agreed that it was a lie. Because of that, Ayase disappointedly said she'd heard enough, so Okarun tried again to say wait and that he had valid reasons, which made Ayase shout that she'd heard enough, causing Okarun to stop chasing her and just let her leave. When Ayase returned to the classroom where Miko was, she asked if Ayase had bought her Pampy juice, to which Ayase just sat at her desk and banged her head on it while saying she had given it away on the grounds, causing one of her friends to be speechless, wondering if it was some kind of joke, and Miko to ask if they were out. Ayase replied to just wait a moment as she was thinking, which puzzled her friends that she was thinking. In the next scene, we moved to their next class where they were studying a Japanese mantis shrimp, and their teacher explained that it had a punching speed of 80 kilometers per hour with 150 kilograms of force. And if it were the size of a human, that would be equivalent to 700 tons, and it could knock down an elephant with one blow. Even with water resistance factored into the equation, the force was that strong, and if it were in the air, they should just imagine its destructive power. While Ayase stared at the shrimp with disgust, she suddenly spoke to it and said she understood it and that sometimes it felt an overwhelming desire to punch things, which shocked her friends and made them think she really wasn't feeling well. It turns out that the scene Ayase saw earlier had really stuck in her mind, and here it was obvious that she was very bothered by it. As a solution to get it out of her mind, she tried punching her own face, and after a while, she stopped and just sighed. This was when her friends realized that without a doubt, she had been possessed by the spirit of the shrimp. On the other hand, while Okarun was listening to his class, he continued training by secretly doing bicep curls, and he was thinking that Ayase was right and there was no point in making excuses. He thought that if he got stronger without Ayase knowing, he would look cool to her, and now he had told her an outright lie, and his current situation was the result of that. He had disappointed Ayase, so he wondered what he should do now, and if Ayase was really important to him, he told himself he should forget the excuses and be tough. While thinking about these things, he suddenly noticed that the floor had turned to water, and when he looked around, his classmates and teacher had suddenly disappeared. Someone shouted from outside his classroom, catching his attention, and as the person shouting asked if anyone was there, he quickly went out, where upon exiting, he saw Ira and asked her where everyone else was. Ira asked what this was and what was happening, and not to tell her that Ayase was the one who did this, so Okarun also asked where Ayase actually was. Okarun searched other classrooms to see if Ayase was there, and Ira pointed out to him that it was pitch black outside, which got Okarun's attention, and he said he had experienced something like this before. Meanwhile, Ayase was experiencing this too, and here Ayase was trying to open the window to get out, but she couldn't do it, so she just commented that she was really locked inside. This was annoying, she thought, and the water was starting to rise. She also wondered what might be happening on Okarun's side, or if this phenomenon was only happening to her. When she thought of Okarun, her anger returned, so she shouted that even just thinking about him made her blood boil. And what was with this water anyway? She stopped talking when she heard something in front of her that seemed to be moving, and she realized that it was running towards her. She listened carefully to what it was, and when she stared at the other side of the hallway where she was standing, she saw a snake-like creature swimming in the water there. As the creature turned, Ayase fortunately managed to hide in a classroom. Ayase tried to peek at the monster, and while looking at it, she wondered what kind of creature it could be, or if it was perhaps a dinosaur, and unfortunately, due to the movement of her feet, she created a small splashing sound, causing Ayase to cover her mouth in shock at what she had done, which caught the monster's attention. The water on the floor started to flow as if the creature was approaching her, and the anxiety was visible on her face as she tried to prevent making any more noise. In an instant, the monster suddenly released an incredibly powerful laser-like projectile that destroyed the classroom where Ayase was hiding. After checking if there was anyone inside and seeing nothing, it left and returned to its previous location. It turns out that Ayase had managed to duck before the monster launched its attack earlier, and her shock and fear were evident as she cried out, wondering where Okarun could be. On the other hand, Ira and Okarun heard the noise made by the monster's attack, causing them to turn towards the other end of the hallway, and Ira asked what that noise could be, to which Okarun replied that he didn't know and that it sounded like an explosion. Ira fearfully asked what was really happening there, and if this wasn't some kind of trap set by Okarun and Ayase for her, to which Okarun irritatedly said no, and that he could ask the same question to Ira. After that, Okarun explained that this kind of thing had happened to him and Ayase before, where everything turned pitch black and they were walled in. Ira then asked what they did in that situation. So Okarun answered that when they defeated the alien, everything returned to normal, which surprised Ira when he mentioned the alien. Ira paused for a moment and exclaimed in shock that aliens actually exist, and Okarun agreed, adding that actually, they were even nastier than ghosts and goblins. Ira was surprised again and asked why exactly they were attacked by aliens, to which he said he didn't know why, but explained that they were collecting human reproductive organs for some reason. And as he was about to say, but suddenly a creature appeared in front of them with a traditional straw hat-like head, wearing boxing gloves and ready to fight. The strange creature began to sing with lyrics like "Chiquitita You and My Cry," which alarmed Ira and Okarun, and it immediately charged at them while singing the words "Chiquitita Shy Ming a Boy View." The creature threw a left uppercut at the two of them, but Okarun managed to guide Ira and dodge the attack. The creature was surprised by Okarun's speed, while Ira blushed as Okarun carried her, while saying what a bummer. It turns out that Okarun had managed to quickly transform into his Turbo Granny Curse form, and he immediately put Ira down, saying he couldn't do that, and who was he to save women there? After putting Ira down, he positioned himself to attack, and called Ira Oniii-Chan, explaining that she would just get in the way, so she should go somewhere else. Ira blushed when she heard him call her Oniii-Chan, and asked where he got off, saying that when he hadn't even kissed her yet, while Okarun just commented that this was depressing. Their enemy creature began to move again, and while saying the words Chikitita-yu and My Cry, it seemed to be hypnotizing Okarun, which Okarun also noticed. Suddenly, Okarun felt an extremely strong gravitational force that pushed him into the ground, causing him to revert to his normal form, and Aira cried out in concern for him. Other creatures emerged from behind Aira and surrounded Okarun as well. One of them commented that they had finally met, calling Okarun man-person, and Okarun noticed that the new arrivals were Serpoians. Aira pulled out a cross and shouted for them to stay away from Okarun, saying she would fight them instead, to which Okarun yelled at her to run, explaining that women were the targets of their enemies. One of the Serpoians raised its hand and pointed it at Aira, immediately flinging her away with an unknown force. Okarun worried about the flung Aira, and the Serpoians commented that only people with high spirituality could enter their void, so they wondered if their apparatus was malfunctioning. They also said that they came for Okarun's banana, repeating twice that they wanted it. Okarun shouted angrily, asking why everyone wanted his banana, to which one of the Serpoians replied that it was because Okarun was endowed with a good set of bananas. They said he had surpassed their science and technology, and that he possessed marvelous abilities. They wanted him and needed to experiment on him, saying they would transplant his abilities to themselves. Okarun countered that those powers came from a curse and weren't his own powers, and that he had less physical abilities compared to an average person. The Serpoian questioned his mention of a curse, asking what kind of banana organ situation that was, to which Okarun irritatedly asked how he would know. In Okarun's mind, he was cursing because he was trying to transform but couldn't, and it seemed as if Ayase was suppressing his curse using her powers. Okarun started to levitate, and his clothes seemed to be melting as this happened, revealing that the Serpoians were lifting him to begin their surgery. Suddenly, one Serpoian pulled out scissors from its crotch and asked if they should start by cutting Okarun's banana first, causing Okarun's eyes to widen in fear when he heard this. He shouted no, and that he only had one testicle left. And as he was saying this, hair-like strands seemed to be swimming in the water, suddenly wrapping around the neck of one of the Serpoians. Suddenly, a long-haired woman began to spin her head rapidly to fling away the Serpoians trying to cut Okarun's banana. Okarun was shocked by this event, and the other Serpoians and the weird being with boxing gloves stared in surprise. The spinning woman commented that she really seemed to be a chosen one, and here we see the face of Acrobatic Silky. It turns out that Aira was behind all of this, and Acrobatic Silky's powers had been transferred to her. After her head spin move, she commented, while her face was becoming Acrobatic Silky's mask, that they should now release Okarun. When Aira became serious again, Okarun noticed that she resembled Acrobatic Silky here, and Aira promptly dispatched another Serpoian there. After Aira knocked down the last one levitating Okarun, he fell to the ground, and she immediately asked if he was okay, whereupon Aira saw his bare back as he stretched due to the fall, causing her to scream and blush while shouting about how he could be so shameless. Aira covered her eyes and shyly asked if his display of nudity was under the presumption of an honorable betrothal, and when she said very well, she transformed back into her Acrobatic Silky face. One Serpoian inquired if she was also a superhuman, and if so, they understood why she could enter their void. They then stated that since they were here, they would remove her banana organ, and the boxer-like alien immediately charged at Aira. Okarun entered a classroom and said to wait a moment, as he needed to put on some clothes, while Aira told Okarun to leave them to her. The boxer-like creature threw a right straight, which Aira easily dodged, and the Serpoian followed up with a Serpo form serpogrammetry, hitting both Aira and the boxer creature, causing Aira to be thrown back and the boxer to irritatedly ask if the Serpoian could avoid attacking him too, to which the Serpoian replied that he was cheap and they had many replacements for him. As Aira stood up, she commented on the strange nature of the attack, feeling as if she had been hit by an invisible wall. The boxer creature rained a barrage of punches on Aira, and suddenly he uttered his phrase and added jet punch, which Aira dodged, causing it to hit the wall and destroy the classroom where Okarun was hiding, sending him flying as well. Ira remarked that it was indeed a respectable punch, to which the boxer thanked her in Spanish. And Ira added that, but if it doesn't connect, it's worthless. This irritated the boxer, who tried to punch her again, but she easily dodged it, while Okaroon grew frustrated, unable to find anything to wear. As Ira continued to dodge, the Serpoian prepared to use his Serpo form Serpogrammetry again, which hit the boxer creature, causing the boxer creature to shout at him to stop that, while Ira managed to evade it while commenting that he was an honorable nuisance. Ira attempted to charge at the Serpoian, but the boxer creature stopped her by blocking her path with his fist, saying, "Wait a moment," to which Ira replied that he seemed to be falling for her, and as they exchanged blows, the boxer creature responded, "Not in the least," and Ira apologized, saying her heart was already set on someone else. Nevertheless, she said she would give him many chances to try, and after saying this, she kicked the boxer's head upwards, embedding it in the ceiling. Ira added that this was a requirement for a refined lady like herself. The boxer yelled in frustration as his head was stuck in the ceiling, while Ira searched for the annoying Serpoian. However, when she was about to attack it, she was quickly pinned to the wall by its ability. The Serpoian creepily told her that now he had caught this woman person, while Ira struggled and wondered what was happening, feeling crushed. The Serpoian walked closer to her and said that in reality, did Ira think that even if he didn't say Serpogrammetry, he couldn't use his power, to which Ira angrily replied, asking who cared about that. As if the Serpoian would fail to notice she was unguarded, Ira said that nothing it was saying mattered and demanded to be released. The Serpoian found this quite interesting, stating that to think there could be multiple people with special abilities in one location. And as he lifted Ira's skirt, he added that now they could expect further advancements in their evolution. Suddenly, the boxer creature fell from the ceiling where he was embedded, causing them to turn and look, and as he fell, the other Serpoians there transformed into their true forms. The Serpoian who pinned down Ira said that while her agility might be impressive, she seemed to lack much power. The Serpoian companion said that although they hadn't planned this, they would take her banana organs since they were there. Ira shouted that she was a chosen one, and that beings like them could not defeat her. And while declaring that surely the light of hope would beam down from the heavens, her dialogue was cut short when the boxer-like creature punched her in the body with extraordinary strength, sending her crashing through the classroom wall. Ira writhed in pain after that, and as the boxer-like creature approached her, the Serpoian's companions commented that she truly was chosen for this, chosen to aid in their evolution. As they were about to begin what they planned to do, Okaroon shouted for them to wait, and despite still being completely naked, he stood in front of Ira and asked if it wasn't him they wanted, and if so, he would face them, to which Ira objected while blushing, telling him he was being indecent. So as he transformed into his Turbo Granny Curse form, he said he had more important problems than clothing. After his transformation, he commented that this was tiresome and he just wanted to go home, while one of the Serpoians agreed with what he said about wanting his banana, but nevertheless, since there were 3 of them there, they could handle both of them simultaneously. The Serpoians again released an extraordinary gravitational force, causing Okaroon to fall to his knees and immediately revert to his normal form, and both he and Ira shouted, asking what was happening and why it was undoing their transformations. The Serpoians explained that this was something they could do by combining their psychokinetic powers, and they called it the Awesome Zone, so they shouldn't think about transforming because they wouldn't be able to stand in it. However, it had one shortcoming. They couldn't enter it themselves, so they brought the boxer-like creature to beat them until they couldn't move. The monster punched downward on Okaroon's head, so Ira tried to stop it, warning that if the boxer-like creature continued, it would kill Okaroon. As the boxer creature was about to deliver its final punch, Okaroon suddenly stood up and forcefully used his own body like a javelin, solidly hitting the boxer creature's body and sending it flying. They couldn't believe he had overcome their awesome zone, but they quickly realized that wasn't the case, and there was someone repelling their psychokinesis. Someone suddenly commented behind them that this was a face she would never forget, and when one of the Serpoians turned to look, it turned out that Isa had arrived on the scene and jealously called Okaroon an idiot, saying this is what he got for flirting with dumb skanks. Okaroon turned to her and said he had been wanting to see her, while the Serpoians exclaimed, "Oh no," because this woman person had arrived there. The Serpoian were utterly surprised when they saw Isa, whom they called woman person. She stated that she would never forget that face. The aliens became irritated because they had already assigned someone to prevent her from reaching there until they obtained Okarune's banana organs. They wondered, what is it doing? Meanwhile, as he lay on the ground, Okarune expressed his desire to see Isa again. She silenced him and told him not to look at her, calling him a perv. Ira was annoyed that of all people, Momo Isa would be the one to rescue them. However, having no choice, she asked for her help. Isa was shocked when she realized that Ira was now Acro Silky. As she prepared to attack, Ira said she would cooperate with her but would never give up her dear kin Takakura, who had also transformed. Isa swooned again upon hearing her crush's name and fell down, while the two suddenly returned to normal and bumped their heads on the ground. Ira asked what Isa was doing, saying she should use her power to keep them in check. Meanwhile, the Serpoian couldn't understand what was happening, but felt they seemed to have the upper hand. One of them ordered their companion to wake up the so-called gig worker. And so he hit the shrimp alien on the head and told him to wake up and work, or else they would reduce his salary. While sitting, the gig worker apologized, saying there would be nothing left for him. The Serpoian became irritated and said he caused more problems than he was worth, so he activated his robotic banana, which revealed a sharp object. The gig worker was terrified and said, "Anything but that?" But he pierced him in the head, causing him to scream and beg them to stop. The gig worker's appearance seemed to change due to the injection in his head, and his form leveled up. When he transformed, he asked if he could fight for 24 hours, addressing him as businessman. He released a shockwave punch towards Okarune and Ira, who were flung away as they were still bound by the Serpoian's psychokinesis. On the Serpoian's orders, he attacked them relentlessly. Okarune was frustrated because they couldn't do anything to fight back. Suddenly, Isa stood up and declared that if Ira mentioned that name again, she's done for. The Serpoian became worried because she was so powerful that their telekinesis was being repelled. So they ordered the gig worker to target Isa. Ira then transformed again, saying that wouldn't happen on her watch because she wouldn't allow them to ignore her. Meanwhile, when Turbo Granny's power emerged, Okarune said this was such a bummer. Ira and Okarune attacked simultaneously, with Ira stating that without their telekinesis, this fight was hers. She kicked the gig worker in the head, whose mind was solely focused on his salary. With that in mind, he managed to uppercut her, sending Ira straight to the ceiling. Isa was concerned because she couldn't see the enemy's attacks, which was dangerous. As Ira fell from the ceiling, the gig worker prepared to attack again. However, Okarune caught and pulled her away, allowing her to dodge. Isa was surprised that Ira wasn't hit. Okarune then revealed that he could see the punches coming. As Okarune landed, Ira kicked the gig worker in the head, angering him. And so he punched with his right hand, but Okarune and Ira dodged again, giving Ira another opportunity to kick his head again. She said he respectfully stated that her power wasn't enough, so she would respectfully hit his weak spots repeatedly. With Okarune's help, she continued to attack. She said she and Takakura were one. Meanwhile, Isa told them to stop fighting so close together because it made them easier targets. While the two were still posing, Ira asked if she was jealous, but Isa denied it. Okarune replied that her advice was good and mentioned again that he truly was an awkward fellow. The Serpoian then used the Awesome Zone again, causing the two to lose their yokai powers, while Isa told Okarune not to say that line. She was very annoyed and asked if they wanted to die. Okarune apologized profusely while Ira told her to focus, saying it was her job to keep their weird powers in check. While in a fighting stance, the Serpoian said their gig worker was useless and so they would reduce his pay by 60%. He couldn't believe it. Suddenly, they were all thrown off, and Okarune wondered what caused it, while Isa became concerned as the water level was slowly rising. They found themselves underwater, bewildered by the situation. The entire place was then submerged.
Okarune was worried because he couldn't feel the ground anymore, and they seemed to be drowning.
When Isa grabbed onto the side, she noticed that even the walls and ceiling had turned to water. They then heard a rumbling sound that alarmed them. A huge creature could be seen below, and Isa announced that it had arrived. The creature she was referring to was just below them, so Isa said they needed to leave immediately. Ira was irritated and asked who said Isa was in charge, insisting that she was the leader. Meanwhile, Okarun recognized the creature as the Nessie. Ira found it cute how excited Takakura was upon seeing the creature, while Isa called them dumbass. Amazed, Okarun said that since they were in Kamigo City, it should be called Kamasi. Ira was impressed that he was so learned and was surprised that the creature was called Nessie. Isa, still annoyed, said if they wanted to be buddy-buddy and just gawk at Nessie, they could, but she was going to run and escape. Meanwhile, the Serpoian questioned the enormous creature about what he was doing, as he was tasked with stopping the woman person, Isa. They said Thai would reduce his salary by 60% as well. However, he suddenly released a high-compression water blast that split one of the Serpoian in half. The others were shocked by the powerful attack and asked why he was attacking them. The Serpoian pointed at Isa, saying she was the one he should be hunting. Due to this, Okarun and the girls quickly swam away. He said Nessie was deadly, while Isa retorted that this was what she had been saying all along. Ira seemed to be falling behind and asked Okarun to wait for her. Suddenly, she flew upwards and hit the ceiling. As a result, Ira struggled to breathe because the ceiling had also turned to water. Okarun was worried for her, and Isa wondered if this was one of the strange aliens' attacks. The creature released more shockwave punches, causing Isa and Okarun to swim away quickly. Surprisingly, his punches were even stronger underwater. Okarun couldn't believe it, noting that the creature's specialization was similar to a mantis shrimp, and wondered if he was a mantisan. The creature replied that when underwater, he becomes even stronger. The force of his punches was 10 times stronger in water than on land. However, he seemed to be running out of air, and so he swam upwards gasping for air. Isa were puzzled when the creature said it was 10 times stronger in water, and she was curious if he didn't have gills. Because of this, Isa urged Okarun to get him, and so Okarun snapped and used his powers, but again he commented it was a bummer. Isa responded that using Turbo Granny's leg strength, he could surely swim very fast, so he went straight down. However, he quickly returned to the surface, saying he was drowning. When asked what was wrong, Okarun replied that he couldn't swim underwater because Turbo Granny couldn't. Isa was surprised by this. As the mantis shrimp alien prepared to attack, they quickly escaped. Isa wondered how they could defeat such an opponent, but even Okarun had no idea how to do it. Meanwhile, Isa was nervous because if they threw around, they were in trouble, and if they didn't help Ira, whom she called a dumb skank, she would drown. While escaping, Okarun asked if Isa couldn't use her power. If she could position herself under Ira, Isa said her power could reach her, but the shrimp alien was blocking the way, so they had no chance of getting close to Ira. Because of this, Okarun said he would distract the alien. He told Isa to use that opportunity to help Ira. Isa wondered what he was talking about, because if he went straight for the alien, he'd just end up like Ira. She told him not to create more headaches. Okarun couldn't believe she could say that. He said he was just trying to be useful in the situation. Isa retorted that how could it be useful if it would only add to their problems. She said that was why she told them earlier to run and escape, but they chose to be lovey-dovey, which is why they ended up in this situation. Okarun denied being lovey-dovey with Ira, but Isa insisted it was very obvious and they were constantly like that. Isa added that Okarun was even all over her in the school courtyard. Okarun was surprised that this was what angered her, but Isa said it wasn't, because she didn't care what a liar did with his dumb skank. Suddenly, Okarun grabbed her hand and said if she cared, she should be straight with him. If it bothered her, then she should let him explain. Okarun added that he didn't care if others misunderstood him, but he'd hate it if she did. He really wanted her to know what truly happened. Isa blushed, but removed Okarun's hand, telling him not to touch her. She asked how he could say all that while being buck naked, and so Okarun apologized. Meanwhile, the shrimp alien attacked again, aiming for Isa. But Okarun saw it coming and came to the rescue, pushing her out of the way and ending up embracing her. They went underwater and locked eyes. Upon surfacing, Okarun apologized, saying it was beyond his control and promised not to touch her again. Just then, Isa figured something out, which puzzled Okarun. In the background, the shrimp alien was exhausted, while Isa told Okarun to stay put. She moved him around in the water and Isa prepared for her plan. The shrimp alien insisted they stop trying to resist, saying they had no chance of escaping his attack. But he suddenly stopped and questioned what he saw. It was Isa riding on Okarun's back. Her plan was to use her giant hand ability to hold the body of Okarun, then squeeze him forward. She would move him using her power as if he were a fish on a line, then ride on his back. So when the alien attacked, they blasted off from the water and dodged the shockwave punch. The two headed straight for the ceiling, which had also turned to water, to rescue Ira. Finally, Isa managed to pull her out, and when they surfaced, they gasped for air. Okarun couldn't believe it, saying Isa was some kind of a genius, to which she replied that she already knew that while trying to wake Ira. Isa became worried when Ira didn't respond, saying she might have swallowed a lot of water. So using her ability, she entered Ira's body, hoping she wouldn't hate her for it. It was a forced resuscitation, and as a result, Ira expelled the water she had swallowed. Okarun was relieved when she was okay, while Ira wondered if she had been dreaming. And so Isa called her a dumbass because they were still in the same situation. She suddenly ordered Ira to undress, saying the extra water resistance was making it difficult for them to move. But Ira refused, saying she'd only do that on her wedding night. Nevertheless, Isa insisted. Meanwhile, the shrimp alien swam, saying escaping up is very sneaky, but when a Serpoian suddenly appeared, he said he was just hunting down the humans and asked for a little more time. As the Serpoian floated, there's a noticeable change in his appearance. The shrimp alien was puzzled when he noticed this, while the Serpoian chased him, saying they were all useless. The Nessie had great attack power but was mentally unstable and attacked indiscriminately. As for him, he called a gig worker. He had strong attack power in water but needed to surface often to breathe, allowing the enemy to escape. The shrimp alien apologized for this. The Serpoian said enough is enough, saying it was time to amalgamate. They would use body cables to become one. Meanwhile, blushing, Ira told Okarun to take responsibility because he saw her in her underwear. Isa retorted that Ira in her underwear was cheap like a Chupa Chups. Moreover, she said they needed to get serious. If they didn't go all out as a team, they wouldn't be able to defeat their enemies. Okarun agreed while Ira responded not to boss her around because she was the leader. Isa started counting down as Okarun prepared for their plan. They went underwater to face the enemy. But when Isa opened her eyes, she was shocked by what she saw. The Serpoian, Nessie, and Mantis Shrimp had joined forces into one monster, alarming them. When the alien spotted them, they suddenly opened their mouth and released high-compression water blasts. However, they managed to dodge it. The power of those shots was so intense that it split the building, ceiling, and surroundings. When Ira looked at it again, she was surprised to find that the alien had suddenly disappeared. It turned out that they had run out of water. Because of this, the three had an opportunity to return to the surface to breathe. Isa commented that they had a close call, while Ira couldn't believe that such a creature existed. Meanwhile, Okarun noticed something while observing the creature from above and pointed it out to Isa. He noticed that the alien's neck was taking in water. Because of this, Ira realized that they couldn't fire lasers nonstop. Isa deduced that if they destroyed its neck, the alien wouldn't be able to attack using the laser. Okarun was sold on the plan, and Ira said this might be their chance. She told them to get closer, and she would attack it. So, they returned underwater and faced the alien. Ira transformed into Acro Silky and used her hair manipulation ability. She lengthened her hair to wrap around the creature's neck and strangle it. After that, she let go of Okarun to prepare for her attack. She positioned herself to kick its vital spot, which was its neck. However, the alien saw her plan and punched Ira in the stomach, which they hadn't expected. The alien taunted them, asking if they thought they only had high-compression water blasts. Though not apparent, they claimed that their combined abilities included close combat fighter skills. And so they used the shrimp alien's ability to attack Ira, blasting her off again until she hit the ceiling. Isa and Okarun were worried about her. The alien was about to hit her again, but Isa saw this, and they quickly rose to the surface to save her and avoid the attack. They used the technique they had employed earlier to ascend to the ceiling and rescue Ira once more. While holding Ira, Isa told her to keep it together. When she asked if she was okay, Ira responded that she wasn't, while on the verge of tears. But because she had answered, Isa said she seemed to be alright. Ira was irritated because the punching jerk, shrimp alien, was now part of the creature's arms. She wondered when this had happened and realized they couldn't get close to it anymore. Isa was also annoyed, saying the Serpoians knew they needed to compensate for Nessie's shortcomings, so they brought that punching jerk along. Okarun was also concerned because the creature was too powerful, having both a laser beam and shrimp punches. He commented that if they were on land, it would be better, but underwater, they were hopeless. Isa was puzzled when she heard this and asked Okarun to repeat what he said. He replied that they were hopeless, but that wasn't what Isa was referring to. She asked him to repeat what she said about the shrimp punches. He was about to respond, but they were suddenly thrown to the surface by the alien shockwave punch. Isa was separated from them, covering her mouth and nose. And when she opened her eyes, she was surprised to see the enemy was right in front of her. However, the alien was disappointed because its high-compression water blast had run out again. Well, they said they had other ways to kill her. The alien stated that Isa was a dangerous human, so the Serpoians decided to kill and dissect her. They could wait for her to drown, but too much time had been wasted already, and so they thought it might be better to beat her to death. Suddenly, the veins in their arms popped. Just then, Isa raised her left hand, seemingly taunting the aliens to give her their best shot. The alien was about to attack Isa with a shockwave punch, but she used her ability to manipulate the water. Because of this move, the water level dropped. As a result, the alien's arms were destroyed, which shocked them. The enemy's arms were ripped apart, leaving them wondering how this happened. Isa said that they shouldn't have merged with their alien shrimp companion. She revealed that the mantis shrimp's punch is strongest in water, but on land, it can't release a serious punch at all, which is why the shrimp alien is the same. If he tried, he would end up like the alien now. The shock of his own punch would cause it to be ripped apart. Because of this, the alien then tried to trap Isa in its mouth. However, Isa grabbed its teeth to prevent it from closing. And so the alien went back underwater, saying they could stay under for hours, but what about Isa? Surely she would drown. The alien thought they could also recharge and cut her in two using the high-compression water blast. Suddenly, the alien's neck was strangled again by Acro Silky's hair. Okarun said that although he couldn't swim, he had a road he could run on. He positioned himself to use Acro Silky's hair as a path to get closer to the alien and save Isa. Using his boosted leg strength, he launched himself with great force like a missile. Isa was surprised when she noticed this. And finally, his plan to rescue Isa succeeded. Due to his charging speed, Okarun managed to split the enormous body of the alien in half and retrieve Isa from its mouth. The two embraced, and when they reached the surface again, Okarun returned to normal. They gasped for air, hardly believing they had defeated the alien. Suddenly, Okarun noticed the solid floor and realized they were in a hallway. Isa thanked the hallway for its hardness. They laughed, and Okarun asked what she was saying. She replied that she didn't know, and they laughed again. But they were startled when someone suddenly asked what the two of them were doing. Opening their eyes, They were shocked to find students staring at them, unable to believe that they were lying on top of each other while naked. They couldn't believe everything was back to normal and that the students had seen them, so they quickly ran away. The students exclaimed that Isa and the Four Eyes from Class B were up to something scandalous. Okarun ran away in embarrassment, covering himself. Ira was also seen coming down the stairs. The boys couldn't believe she was naked too and wondered why they were all without clothes. We then see the school infirmary, where the nurse asked the three if they were trying to make a fool of her. She told them to repeat their story from the beginning. Now dressed, the three were asked by the nurse if they had been bullied, to which they replied no. She insisted they confess, saying they didn't need to hide it. The sexy nurse added that she had zero tolerance for bullying and was on their side, and so they thanked her for her concern. Suddenly, the door opened, and a man called out the nurse, addressing her as Queen Sensei, saying she had a phone call in the staff room. She approached him and hit him on the head, calling him Baldy. She told him not to open the door without knocking, and so the man apologized to her. She replied that it seemed she needed to punish him and called him a shiny cue ball. And so she left the infirmary, saying she'd be back in a minute. She told them they could stay there as long as they liked. After she left, Isa and Ira panicked. Isa didn't know what to do because everyone had seen them in the weirdest situation possible. On the side, Ira was concerned about her popularity and innocent image. Isa added that those aliens were extremely persistent, and she couldn't handle going through such an attack again. Okarun said that this time, he was their target, and it seemed they wanted Turbo Granny's power. Because of this, Isa remembered to ask when Ira had used Acro Silky's power. She replied that it was in the middle of the battle. Moreover, she claimed to be the exquisite chosen savior of the world. Isa wondered why her title kept changing. However, Isa wasn't surprised that it happened since Acro Silky's aura had transferred to her. But Okarun said that the aliens might target her because of this. Ira blushed, thinking Okarun was concerned for her. Okarun added that she was able to fight the alien because of her yokai power, but due to the power she now possessed, they would surely target her too. Isa wondered if that wasn't strange. If the aliens wanted yokai power, she wondered why didn't they just attack the yokai directly. Okarun agreed and said that was exactly the point. There was an argument that if aliens possessed astounding science and technology, why hadn't they invaded Earth yet? Even he wondered about that. He realized they couldn't do it because of the yokai. And not just in Japan, there was folklore about spirits and demons all over the world. In other words, these yokai and demons were protecting Earth from alien invasion. And even though aliens had science and technology, they still couldn't defeat the yokai, so they needed to attack special people like them to study. They wanted them to develop the science necessary to defeat the yokai. Okarun was sure of this. Perhaps the aliens were also the ones who stole his missing marble. Okarun was worried and said they needed to find it quickly. Isa was confused by this story and couldn't figure out what the point was. She asked what exactly was wrong. Meanwhile, Ira said she got the gist of it, which was that the fate of the whole world rested on her. Okarun just replied that they could put it that way. Suddenly, Isa laid down on the floor, saying the most important point was that everyone had seen her naked. Ira was annoyed and told her not to remind her of that. Isa couldn't move on because no matter what they said, no one would believe them. And so she wondered what they should do. To this, Ira agreed and thought she'd just blame it on Isa, saying she made her strip. She claimed that was the truth, and Okarun could say the same. Isa said they could just go ahead and say that. Okarun was surprised because if they did that, it would make Isa look bad. However, she didn't care because she was tired. She had a pain trying to think of excuses to tell. Suddenly, Ira's friends arrived to visit her. They asked what happened and if she was okay. Ira was surprised to see them. One of them asked Isa if she was responsible for this, but she didn't answer while Okarun tried to clear things out. They started to pull Ira out, but Okarun said that if Isa didn't explain, she'd look bad in this situation. But she replied that it didn't matter anymore. She suddenly brought up that Okarun should be the one to start explaining himself. She asked what he and Ira were doing at lunch in the courtyard. She replied that Ira suddenly tried to kiss him out of the blue, which shocked Isa. He added that it was true, and in the end, they tussled and fell to the ground. That's when she arrived. Isa was then curious about what he was doing there in the first place. Okarun shyly admitted that he was working out, doing push-ups and stuff. He said he wanted to become stronger. When asked why, he replied that if Isa noticed he was getting tough without knowing how, he'd look kinda cool. Isa was very surprised by this. She didn't know he had a vain side too. Okarun admitted this embarrassingly. He added that he was still a guy after all, and so he wanted Isa to think he was cool. She approached him and peered at his face. Okarun told her not to laugh at him because it wasn't nice when she does that. Isa was curious why he wanted him to think he was cool. Okarun stuttered and just said it was because he was a guy. But when asked what that had to do with being a guy, Okarun couldn't believe she still wasn't satisfied with his answers and told her to stop. So, he left first, saying he wouldn't say anything that would make Isa look like she was at fault for everything. As he was leaving, Isa called out to him, visibly blushing. They both seemed embarrassed with each other. Isa called Okarun, and it seemed she had something to tell him, but suddenly Isa's friends arrived. The two of them were surprised, and Isa said that they scared the crap out of her. "You want to talk?" replied one of her friends. One of them said they had heard that the two suddenly disappeared in the middle of class. The other agreed, saying that Kana had told them about it. One added that according to Kana, Isa was hugging Okarun in front of Class D while they were naked. They were in the science lab at that time, and this person asked what had happened. Isa replied that even if she told them, they wouldn't understand, and that's just how it happened. Okarun said that was rather vague, and we can see the reaction of Isa's friends. One of them said that she had solved the mystery, and their companion asked if it was true. She asked Isa if she knew someone named Shiratori in Class D, and she answered yes. The girl explained that in her investigation, she learned that Shiratori was also nude, which proves there was a love triangle between Isa, Okarun, and Shiratori. In other words, it was a clear case of fighting over the same man. Then, she asked if a nude gladiatorial combat broke out. She added that when Isa was talking to the shrimp earlier, it was to learn how to punch in order to beat the tar out of Shiratori, and the other friend looked very shocked. She said Isa was acting weird and withdrawn because she was jealous, and Isa told her to be quiet and that she wasn't jealous. One of them poked Okarun's face, and when he told her to stop, she answered that he was the culprit. Let's move to Class 2D, where Eira Shiratori's classmates are checking on her, saying they'll do whatever it takes if she needs help. She thanked them all because they make her feel so bubblicious. However, she said she doesn't want to talk about what happened earlier, so she'd be happiest if they just leave it alone. We can see Shiratori grinning, very impressed with her own popularity. All her efforts to become popular are bearing fruit at times like these. At this rate, it's as if the incident never happened. Suddenly, the expression on her face changed when she heard people talking about Isa and blaming her for what happened. Shiratori's friend told their classmates that Isa had been harassing Eira recently, like when she threw a wash bowl at her. Shiratori's classmates started saying all sorts of things about Isa because of this, like how Isa won't get away with what she did, who does she think she is, and that she's probably just jealous of Shiratori's beauty. Someone even said that Isa would sleep with anyone as long as it's a guy, and another chimed in that they had also heard this rumor spreading recently. Another one said they need to make Isa pay and tell everyone about her. They said that she'll learn not to make their Shiratori cry. Shiratori spoke up and said that she was the one who spread that rumor, which shocked everyone. She said she was wrong to do that, and they shouldn't say bad things about Isa. She left the room, and her classmates still couldn't believe it. Shiratori sat on a bench outside the school, and it seemed like she started crying. She said she made a mistake and how pitiful her popularity was. She was throwing a tantrum and calling herself an idiot when someone asked her what she was doing. It was Isa who said Shiratori was still messed up in the head. "Shut it," Shiratori replied, and asked what Isa wanted, who answered nothing. Isa asked her how it went making up a convincing story, and she explained that everyone was angry at Isa, who looked surprised. "Yet you're still alone," said Isa, adding that people always follow Shiratori like goldfish turds. Shiratori told her to give her a break and made her leave because they were enemies. Isa then asked if Shiratori hadn't said anything bad about her. She answered that she did, and that she had raked Isa over the coals. Isa stood up and sarcastically said, sure, but at that moment, they both saw something. We can see liquid dripping on the floor, and the source of it said it couldn't just leave like that. It needed to earn money for its family. We learned that this was the alien gig worker from earlier, and it was also what Isa and the others saw. Shiratori transformed and said it was still chasing them. Isa, on the other hand, was disgusted because white liquid was dripping from it. The gig worker mentioned the words Chiquitita Iwi and my cry while preparing to attack, but suddenly collapsed in front of the two. The two were surprised at what happened, and Isa heard the gig worker mention the word Chiquitita. In a flashback, we see a crying child chasing after their father, and we see the father saying sorry to it, calling it Chiquitita. In the next scene, the gig worker wakes up with bandages and wonders where it is. It saw Isa and the others standing in front of it, and Isa told her grandmother that the gig worker was an alien. Seiko said it doesn't look like an alien and asked Isa if she was sure it wasn't a Kappa. Isa got angry at her, saying there was an alien in front of her, but she still didn't believe it. Seiko replied that it wasn't an alien, but a Kappa, and Okarun chimed in, saying there are people who would say a Kappa is an alien. Shiratori then asked what they were going to do with the gig worker. They had treated its wounds, but it might still attack them. The gig worker tried to stand up, and Isa told it to stop because her grandmother was with them now. The gig worker noticed the food, and Isa said they didn't know what aliens eat, so they made curry for it, and it didn't have to eat the food if it didn't want to. The gig worker seemed to want to say something, and Isa wondered what it was, but it suddenly started crying. It explained that this was the first time it had received this kind of medical attention or been treated so kindly. Then, it promised that it would never try to hurt them again. In the next scene, we see Isa's house and a large platter of various sushi. The gig worker is eating it, and twice he says how bad it tastes. Everyone is creating a commotion at the dining table, and Seiko tells the gig worker to stop eating all the toro. Isa and Shiratori are fighting over something, and Isa says she doesn't care if Shiratori is a guest, but she can only have ginger. Shiratori replies that since she's a guest, she should be offered Nataguro. We also see Turbo Granny kicking Okarun, saying that Okarun ate all of her uni. Seiko keeps hitting the gig worker, telling him that he's a Kappa, so he should eat the Kappa Maki. On the other hand, Okarun argues that Turbo Granny left the uni, and Turbo Granny says she was saving it to eat last. Of course, the two girls are still arguing, and Seiko says she won't give them any more sushi. Their sushi is gone, and the gig worker says his child is sick. He explains that his child loses blood when defecating and urinating, and if he doesn't get daily blood transfusions, he will die. He adds that his wife died from the same illness. He mentions an alien word that Isa doesn't understand, which is supposedly needed for his child's treatment. The gig worker explains that it means money in human language, and he desperately needs it. He says something again in alien language about a conflict zone, and that he has no way to earn money there, so he left to look for money elsewhere. He said that their kind have tough bodies. They can work as bodyguards or similar jobs, but he's weak. There's no hope for someone like him who has fallen on hard times. And all he can do is dangerous work as an outlaw. Because of his weakness, his wife died, and he hurt people, and has filled his son with anxiety. We see the gig worker crying, calling himself pathetic. Okarun asks what they can do to help him, and if he gave him his sausage, would it save his child? Isa asks what Okarun is talking about, and he replies that if the gig worker could get money for it, it's fine with him because they can get it back later. Isa asks where they would get it back from, adding that what the child needs for treatment are daily transfusions, so there's no point in getting a lump sum of money. The situation is bad, but the gig worker needs to earn consistent money to pay for his child's treatment. Okarun says that the gig worker wants to work, but there's no job for him, so where will he get money from? He says he knows the gig worker's problem, so he can't pretend he doesn't know, and he wants to help. Isa tells him to calm down, saying she understands how he feels, but Shiratori suddenly interrupts, saying she can take back Okarun's sausage. Isa tells her to shut up, calling her a dumb skank. Ira says that a woman who won't support Okarun when he says he wants to help someone can't be his partner, and Isa replies, as if you could be. The gig worker says that, as Isa said, the right way is just to work. He adds that Okarun's thoughtfulness warms his heart, but he's already imposed far too much on him. As he promised, he won't hurt them anymore. The gig worker apologizes for staying too long and thanks them, but someone suddenly stops him. It's Seiko, and she says the gig worker's blood smells rank. Okarun told her she shouldn't say that because it's alienism and not PC, politically correct. While smelling the gig worker, Seiko tells Okarun to be quiet, asking who's not PC. She then asks the gig worker if the white liquid is his blood, and Seiko says the smell of the gig worker's bandages is nostalgic, which surprises him. Seiko makes the gig worker drink milk, and he complies. The three kids are puzzled, and the gig worker seems to realize something. The gig worker says that's their blood, and we see Isa, very surprised, asking her grandmother how that can be. Seiko explains that the bandages smell like rags used to wipe milk. She says milk is the blood for cows in a way, but she never imagined that milk would be the blood of Kappa monsters. Isa can't believe it and says they'll get a lot of milk. Okarun has the same reaction, calling the gig worker a Dover demon. The gig worker says the milk is a bit weak, and Seiko replies that it's diluted for human consumption. She adds that she knows a dairy farmer, and she'll ask him to give a cow to the gig worker. She instructs the gig worker to give everything he has and take care of his health. We then see a UFO taking a cow, and the gig worker thanks Okarun and the others. He says he won't forget his debt to them, and if they need help, he'll be their ally. Seiko tells him to be quiet. The neighbors will get annoyed, so he should hurry and leave. Cattle mutilation, Okarun shouts, and Isa is amazed at the size of the UFO. Shiratori says she's the protector of that planet, so the gig worker shouldn't come back. After that, Isa asks her grandmother if she believes in aliens now, but Seiko says the gig worker was a Kappa. Isa seems to be getting irritated with her grandmother and asks Okarun for help, who again says that according to some people, Kappa monsters are aliens. They go back inside the house, and the three are begging Seiko to buy them uniforms and use her appearance fees as Dodoria. Seiko asks them how many times she has to buy them uniforms, and the three answer that they'll take care of them. Shiratori asks Isa if they'll be bought uniforms too. She replies that they, as students, have no money, and in times like these, they've got to exploit the financial means of adults, and Okarun adds that this is their third time. Seiko says she'll buy for Aira and Okarun, and her granddaughter looks surprised. She asks why she's not included, and Seiko answers that she doesn't like the look in Isa's eyes because she's saying they should exploit the financial means of adults. She orders Momo to do a Hiroshi Abe impression until she says stop, but Momo strongly rejects it, saying she'd never do that. Her grandmother reminds her who she's talking to, and says Isa should forget about the uniform. She asks why she should care, as she's not the one who will wear it. Isa does a Hiroshi Abe impression, and Shiratori laughs at her, while Okarun says it's kinda cute. Seiko says that she's not doing a proper imitation, and at that moment, someone rings the doorbell. Seiko orders Isa to see who's there while doing the impression, and Isa obeys, saying the words rocket engine valve in Hiroshi Abe's voice. As Isa opens the door, her grandmother tells her that she'll be watching her from where she's sitting, so she shouldn't stop. Isa opens the door for the person who rang the doorbell, saying she's rocket engine valve. We learn that Isa knows the boy who rang the doorbell, and his name is Gigi. Seiko says he's there already, and his mother told her he was coming. We can see the surprise on Isa's face, and she asks Gigi why he's there. Okarun asks who Gigi is, and Seiko says he's Isa's childhood friend and her first love, which surprises Okarun.